Okay, I think it's time we did an update on the 49 F1 rat rod. Haven't posted a video in quite a while. We did take some time a few weeks ago and really hit this thing hard for a couple weeks and actually got it on the road, drivable, tagged, insured. We had a local rat rod car show, a big one here that happens every year. So we kind of set that as a goal and pushed and got it drivable. So pretty pleased so far. It's definitely a grown-up go-kart. Real happy with the little 331 small block, the 5-speed, the 9-inch, the gearing, suspension, everything really, is really headed in the right direction. It's going to be a blast to drive when we get a few more bugs worked out. Just thought I'd show you what we had done. We did get a little bit done inside. Got some seats. Me and a buddy recovered those, and they came out pretty nice. They were a swap meet find, and so they're pretty comfortable. Got a little side bolster support, which is good for something that you're going to try to be slinging around maybe at the track. And got all the dash stuff finished. All our gauges and everything are working, except for the fuel gauge is not correct. It's being fed off of the sending unit from the fuel cell, and the fuel gauge is an old Sun period correct gauge, and I've got an adapter that will allow me to calibrate the sending unit to that gauge. I just haven't been in a big hurry to put it in. So anyway, that's where we're at there. Still got a lot to do inside, a lot more sound deadener. I've got shoulder straps coming for it, make it a little safe. I was gonna put some racing harnesses in it, and I think it's gonna be driven too much on the street to even bother with that. I can always add a set if we get into any hardcore stuff that requires it. Probably not going to be an issue because, again, we don't have cage, so we're going to be limited as to quarter-mile speeds and so forth, and a 3-point harness will be just fine. So anyway, still a lot to do. Haven't really figured out what I'm going to do in the bed yet. We did get our rear cross member built, place for the tag, tail lights, and I've still got to add license plate lights. This thing is not legal for nighttime use yet because we don't have headlights. So anyway, I've got a couple things like that to do. Now, if you'll look, what we're working on today, I don't know if you can see it too much in the picture, but it's sitting at an angle on the passenger side. It's sitting lower. Well, what we're doing, this front suspension is a 2002 Toyota Tacoma front clip, and it's pretty much a copy of a Mustang 2. It's just a little beefier, and it is a rear steer. Really nice little setup, and it's got the stock Tacoma springs in it. And this truck weighs less than a Tacoma, and also the engine is completely behind the front axle center line. So we really don't have near as much weight on the front as it would have had in the Toyota. So what I discovered, while the ride is okay, it didn't really want to stiffen up the ride or anything like that. The control arms are fairly level, but they can actually, the top one could stand to be at a little bit of an angle, and the bottom one is actually not as flat as it looks right there. So we need to lower the front end, and I wanted the front end of this thing to be lower. Excuse me. So I had a couple of options. We could convert it to coilovers, and excuse me a second, I'm going to pause this and do something about this cough. Okay, so we'll pick up where we left off. So anyway, I had a couple options. We could convert this to coilover, shocks and springs in the front, and have everything fully adjustable. Have to do some fabricating to do that. That's kind of pricey. This is obviously not a real high budget build, as you can see. So kind of gonna rule that out. Thought about just trimming the springs. Found the spring rate on these, I think is 280, which is a little softer than I thought, but if that's correct, you know, it seems reasonable. And we're running some 140s in the back, and the back is coilovers. But if you get to looking at these springs, they really can't be cut. They've got a unique end at both ends that would make it difficult to trim them. And then they start getting stiffer, and I don't want it riding any stiffer. It's plenty firm for handling, but it's not so bad that it's gonna beat you to death. So what I decided to do was to modify the spring pocket. As you can see right here, this spring pocket is taller now than this one. So what we did is we took a 4 3/4 hole saw and took the shock out, made a bushing where it would follow the center point of the shock, and this bores just perfectly through the shock hat and through the spring pocket, and it's got all the stamped piece where the spring and the rubber and everything tucks up in it. And it basically just bores all that out. And then I had a friend of mine, has a machine shop. He cut me some rings. Now this is not one of the rings, but just kind of similar. We've been cutting some pieces out of this for bracing. This is a little bit thin, but he bored me some rings that were 4 3/4 ID and 5-inch OD. And that's the same wall thickness as all of this suspension stuff. So it's plenty thick. So basically we just raised up our spring pocket, shock mount, everything, welded it all back in, braced it up. And of course, it's still got to be painted and smoothed up a little bit. It'll be fine. I'm kind of thinking that my headlights are going to mount somewhere right in here, whereas you're looking straight on, you're not going to see as much of the spring pocket, but you know, we'll see. Might even be able to do a mount coming off of that for the headlights. So what that does, we lengthen that spring pocket 1 1/4 inches, and just roughly looking at the geometry, that should lower the front end 1.5 inches. Now, right now, we've only done one side, so it's not lowered it as much, but you can see that, you know, this thing is sitting a little cocked, but the driver's side is still holding it up. I wanted to show a before and an after. So today we're gonna cut all of this one out, and we have to pull the spring out, of course, take the upper control arm off, and that should get our front end down where we want it to be, not affected our ride. We've not really spent much money. I think I spent 30 bucks on the whole saw, and the rest of it's just metal that, you know, we had. So just a little bit of labor. And I've got the sway bar loose. I've got new end links. I got some urethane end links for that. And that'll put us in great shape. And then this thing can go to the alignment shop, because it's just basically had a neutral alignment in it. And we just set everything best we could here in the shop. So that's where we're at. Oh, also I did do hood pins. You can see, and these go down right there. They've got some bumpers, and then you have a hood pin. You just pin it up underneath. And we got started working on a grill. This is just some, found some hexagonal aluminum bar stock at the scrapyard, and had a friend of mine who's got a turret lathe, and he faced and bored and tapped everything for me to start building grill bars. And still got a ways to go on that. What we can do now is this metal piece on the side where all the bolt heads are at, we'll be able to roll some sheet metal to follow the side of the hood and bring the grill around maybe to the where the radiator's at. And I think I can actually put a set of 49 F1 park lights up at the top, molded into that shape because it's basically the same curve as the stock. And do a little trimming up, paint the center part. I've tried to follow the center line of the hood, and I think it's going to look okay. And probably black the radiator out, at least the front of it, so it doesn't take away from the grill. And that's kind of where we're at, and just kind of piddling along, and probably start working on interior stuff, try to get all of it neatened up, and sound deadener and glass runs and new door glass and stuff like that in it, and just start driving it. So anyway, wanted to give you an update. That's kind of what we've been doing. Okay, here's what it looks like after we've taken the hole saw and bored through that and got those pieces out. And then we've got this ring right here. It's been machined. It fits down in there. Got great place to weld. And then this piece right here, we'll weld it. Well, I can't lay it in there, but this piece welds in on top of that. And then we just build some braces and get everything burned in good, and reassemble it. Okay, we've got both sides done, and that looks a whole lot better. You can see the control arm angles are very reasonable. And it really helped the looks of the truck with it sitting a little lower, and that would definitely help with the handling. So anyway, I think that was a project worthwhile. Costs very little to do, just a few hours of time, and it's not going to affect the ride, and should definitely improve the handling and the looks. Anyway, appreciate you watching. Just want to give an update.